Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Bhalabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopijana Bhalabha Girivardhari Yashodhanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodhanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Ballabha Girivardhari Yashodhanandana Brajajana Ranjana Bhanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare. Right. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parirajakacharya Stotra Tata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Namacharya Sahidasa Kor Ki Prem Se Gho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasati Ghoda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Radha Kunda Shama Kunda Giri Govardhana Ki Shri Vrindavan Dhama Ki Shri Mayapur Navadhi Dhama Ki Shri Jagannath Puri Dhama Ki Ganga Mai Ki Jamuna Mai Ki Tulasi Devi Ki Bhakti Devi Ki Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Gaura Premanandi Hari Hari Bo. All glories to the Samad devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the Samad devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the Samad devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada ki jai. So I see we have some guests this morning. Hare Krishna. Welcome to Radha Govinda Mandir. Is your first time in the temple? How did you find out about the temple? Oh, really? Nice. And where are you guys visiting from? You live in New York. Nice. And these are your friends? Okay, great. Well, thank you for coming this morning. Well, what we're doing now, what's going on is we're going to have what's called a Śrimad Bhāgavatam class. So this is something that our founder, Srila Prabhupada, who founded ISKCON, his Murti is there, his form that we, you can say, keep in the temple room to worship, and he presides over and watches and makes sure we're doing the right thing every day. And so he gave us this principle every day of reading one verse from what's called the Śrimad Bhāgavatam, which is this book right here. And the Bhāgavatam is, you can say, it's a compilation of stories that have very deep spiritual revelations, you can say. So we study the Bhāgavatam every morning, and we try to derive essential lessons from it, and we discuss and like this start off our day on the right foot, so to speak. So having a basis of spiritual knowledge to start our day. So thank you all for coming. So I had a class prepared for today, so I'll go through the class and I'll try to make it very relevant for you, for the three of you who have come today for the first time. So the standard method that we do is when we start the class, before we start, we invoke blessings. So I'll repeat this mantra, and then you all can repeat in unison after. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So this is like offering respects to Vasudeva, is the name of Krishna. He's the son of Vasudeva, as you know, you're a fan of Krishna. So Vasudeva is Krishna's father, so we offer, one of his names is Vasudeva. So Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, we're offering respects to him. And then I'll say a few more verses, and these verses are for offering respects to the author of the Bhagavatam and incarnation of the Lord and Mother Saraswati. And we also offer respects to the instructions of the Bhagavatam, which we very carefully receive every day. And then another verse that just tells us that in this age which is known as Kali Yuga, we're receiving direction, or we're receiving guidance from these scriptures from a higher source. Narayana namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam Tatho jayam udhirayet. Nastapreshu bhadreshu. Nityam bhagavat sevaya. Bhagavati uttama shloke. Bhaktir bhavati naishtaki. Krishne swadhamo bhagate. Dharma jnana dibisaha. Kalauna samdrisamesa. Puranako dunoditaha. So this, what we're mostly singing is in Sanskrit, which Sanskrit is known as the language of the gods. You could say this is the language they speak in the spiritual world. So these vibrations, they carry with them spiritual potency. So when we chant these mantras and we go over these mantras, they purify our heart and consciousness, and then we're able to try to see things from a higher perspective. So we're continuing our study of Śrimad Bhāgavatam, and right now we're on canto number 3, which is entitled The Status Quo, and right now we're on chapter number 21, which is entitled Conversation Between Manu and Kardama. So Manu is, Swayambhuva Manu is particularly, is the son of Lord Brahma. You're familiar with Lord Brahma? So Brahma is the first created being in this universe. And Swayambhuva Manu is one of his sons. And Kardama Muni is also a son of Lord Brahma. So they're both sons of Lord Brahma. And Brahma has given them instructions. You can say he's given them direction by things they should do to carry out their life and move forward. So particularly now, we're listening to a conversation that's happening between Manu and Kardama Muni. And basically, Swayambhuva Manu is preparing to give his daughter in marriage to Kardama Muni, who's been instructed by Lord Brahma to procreate, to populate the world. So as we know, this is a important function. Otherwise, none of us would be here today if it wasn't for procreation of the universe. So this is an important service that has to be done. So Kardama Muni was asked by Lord Brahma, his father, to take up this service to bring children into this world. So the way we do it is, I'll just go line by line, and then it's a call and respond. Maitreyo Vacha Praja Srijeti Bhagavan Karamo Brahmanodita Sarasvatyam Tapastepe Sahasranam Samadasa. Maitreyo Vacha Praja Srijeti Bhagavan Kardamo Brahmanodita Sarasvatyam Tapastepe Sahasranam Samadasa. Maitreyo Vacha Praja Srijeti Bhagavan Kardamo Brahmanodita Sarasvatyam Tapastepe Sahasranam Samadasa. Maitreyo Vacha Prajasriti Bhagavan Karmano Brahmanodita Sarasvatyam Tapastepe Samadhisha. Maitreyo Vacha Prajasriti Bhagavan Saraswatyam tapastepe Sahasranam samadhasha. Would you like to try, Cody? Yeah, give it a try. Maitreyo vacha Prajashriti Bhagavan Karmano Brahmanodita Saraswatyam tapastepe Sahasranam samadhasha. Good job. Maitreyo vacha Prajashriti Bhagavan Kardamo Brahmanodita Saraswatyam tapastepe Sahasranam samadhata. Maitreyo vacha Prajashriti Bhagavan Kardamo Brahmanodita Saraswatyam tapastepe Sahasranam samadhasha. Would any of you like to try? Yeah? Maitreyo vacha Prajashriti Bhagavan Karmano Brahmanodita Saraswatyam tapastepe Sahasranam samadhasa. That was really good. You chant slokas regularly? Oh, okay, good. Word for word. Maitreyo vacha. The great sage Maitreya said, Prajaha, children, Shrija, beget, iti, thus, Bhagavan, the worshipful, Kardamaha, Kardama Muni, Brahmana, by Lord Brahma, Oditaha, commanded, Saraswatyam, on the bank of the river Saraswati, Tapaha, penance, Tepe, practice, Sahasranam, of thousands, Samaha, years, Dasha, 10. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. The great sage Maitreya replied, commanded by Lord Brahma to beget children in the worlds, the worshipful Kardama Muni practiced penance on the bank of the river Saraswati for a period of 10,000 years. Purport. It is understood herein that Kardama Muni meditated in yoga for 10,000 years before attaining perfection. Similarly, we have information that Valmiki Muni also practiced yoga meditation for 60,000 years before attaining perfection. Therefore, yoga practice can be successfully performed by persons who have a very long duration of life, such as 100,000 years. In that way, it is possible to have perfection in yoga. Otherwise, there is no possibility of attaining the real perfection. Following the regulations controlling the senses and practicing the different sitting postures are merely the preliminary practices. We do not know how people can be captivated by the various bogus yoga system in which it is stated that simply by meditating 15 minutes daily, one can attain the perfection of becoming one with God. This age, Kali Yuga, is the age of bluffing and quarrel. Actually, there is no possibility of attaining yoga perfection, such paltry proposals. The Vedic literature, for emphasis, clearly states 3 times that in this age of Kali, Kalo nastyeva, 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 there is no alternative, and no other alternative than Harinama, chanting the holy name of the Lord. So I'm going to ask you if you can follow along with some mantras. What I'll do is I'll say the verse that I'm going to quote, and then you can put it up. That way everyone can see it and benefit from it. Well, now maybe you can go to the introduction of Bhagavad Gita. So I'm going to recite what's called Mangala-charana, and these prayers are to invoke blessings. Yeah. So we'll just wait for him to pull it up. It should be in the end of the introduction. Go back, like Bhagavad Gita as it is, introduction, and go all the way to the end. Oh, actually right there in the beginning. Okay. Now it's starting with Om Jnanati Mirandasya. Up. Okay. Om Jnanati Mirandasya Ghananjana Salakaya Chatsurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Bandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Patakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Shcha Shri Rupam Sargrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sahavetam Savdutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitam Shcha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyaevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So yeah, this is what's called a Mangala-charana. So we just offer respects to our Guru, who's opened our eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. We also offer respects to a very dear follower of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he's the one, if you look at the two small deities with their arms raised, he's the one on the right with the pink base. That's Lord Chaitanya, and he's known as an incarnation of Krishna in this age. He's actually not different than Krishna himself. So we worship Lord Chaitanya predominantly in this age of Kali, as Prabhupada mentioned in the last part of this purport. He said, Kalo nastyeva gati anyata. So Lord Chaitanya particularly came to propagate this, what's called the Sankirtan movement, which is the movement to glorify God in this age, particularly through the chanting of His names. And there's evidence given of His appearance in the Bhāgavatam. So the Bhāgavatam was written down over 5,000 years ago, but the knowledge in here is eternal. So there's a verse that says, Krishnam Bharnam Tusha Krishnam Sango Pangastra Parsadam Yagyai Sankirtanai Praya Yayantihi Sumerasaha. So Lord Chaitanya appears in this age, and he's Krishna himself, but he's not black like Krishna. So we know Krishna is Sham, he's dark, black color, but he's come in a form that's not blackish, but that's golden form. And he's come with his associates. So when Lord Chaitanya is seen, as you can see in this picture over here, you see these gentlemen that are dancing with their arms upraised to the left of the exit sign, and that's Lord Chaitanya. Also, he's over there too, dancing with the animals. So that's Lord Chaitanya with his associates. And he says he comes with his weapons, astras, but his weapons aren't like Lord Ramachandra came with a bow, an arrow, and sword, and Nrsingadev also came with various weapons, but it's not like that. So Lord Chaitanya comes with the weapon of the holy names of Krishna. So as Prabhupada is mentioning in this purport, maybe you might have thought, oh, someone who lives for 100,000 years, I mean, that's not possible nowadays. So it's described in the Vedas that there's different ages. They're like seasons. So the golden age is described as what's known as Satya Yuga. So in this age, it's described that humans live up to 100,000 years. So we can see that this time that this particular narration is taking place, that the particular story we're in right now, took place during that age, because otherwise how could have Karna Muni meditated for 10,000 years? So he meditated for 10,000 years before he undertook the process to follow the instructions of his guru or of his father, Lord Brahma. So the different ages are described like that. There's Satya Yuga, where humans live for 100,000 years. Then you have Treta Yuga. So every progressive yuga, you take off a zero off of the end. So for example, Satya Yuga would be 100,000 years that humans lived. Treta Yuga, 10,000 years. Dwapara Yuga, 1,000 years. And Kali Yuga, up to 100 years. So we see mostly when someone says they're 100 years old, be like, whoa, he's old. He's lived a long time. But in previous ages, that was just like, like a toddler. 100 years old, he's just getting started in life. He has a long way to go. So, like that. So this particular pastime or story is being told at that time. But the lessons that are drawn out in this story are applicable here now. So that's the thing about spiritual knowledge. It's applicable in all time, all places, and in all circumstances. So just like in the Bhagavad Gita, we see that was spoken 5,000 years ago by Krishna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. And there, Arjuna is instructing Krishna is instructing Arjuna on the principles of how to live in this world, ultimately how to live in this world, but live in consciousness of Him and carry out our works for Krishna's pleasure. Yat karosi yasasni yajuhosi dadasi yat tapasyasi kontaya tat kurusam mararpanam. So this is from the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, verse number 27, which describes that whatever we do, whatever we produce, whatever sacrifice we do, we should offer it to Krishna first. So like that, so these are some principles that are being taught. So in this particular story is taking place in that time. And then in this particular story of Kardama Muni, we see a couple of very important lessons that are brought out. One thing is that here Kardama Muni, he's meditating for 10,000 years because he's preparing himself to undergo this task of then to produce or populate the universe, to start producing children. So that's actually a very important service that he's going to perform. So one lesson that we can draw out here is what one wise old man once told me. He said, if you live your life by the 5 P's, you'll avoid a lot of difficulty. So those 5 P's are prior preparation. Prior preparation prevents poor performance. And this was when I was working as a server in an assisted living. And this is old man Jack. And Jack had before he ended up in the old age home, he had a business and he had 200 employees. So he knew a little bit about what he was talking about, how to organize things. So prior preparation prevents poor performance. And we can see that in different areas of in service. For example, we do a lot of cooking here for Radha and Krishna. This is one of the principles of, or one of the duties in service to Krishna is cooking for Krishna, offering Krishna prasadam, patram pushpam palam toyam, offering him bhoga, and he takes that and makes it into prasadam. So when we're going to cook, it's important to, one, have the ingredients, right? If you plan to make a nice kitri with a nice sabji and chapati and say raita and mango lassi, you need to have the ingredients. If you go into the kitchen, you don't have any yogurt, you don't have any mango, you don't have rice, you don't have dal, what are you going to make? What are you going to do? So that prior preparation prevents poor performance. So we prepare beforehand. We make sure we have the ingredients. We make sure we know the techniques so we can learn how to cook these dishes properly. So that way we'll be able to be doing nicely for Krishna's pleasure. Music, for example. Music is a thing where some people have a natural talent, you can say, but even those that have a natural talent, one of the things is that they practice to refine their skills. So Cristiano Ronaldo, that's the name of the famous soccer player. Cristiano Ronaldo, famous soccer player, I'm sure everyone knows here. Famous soccer player, you know. Even I know, and I haven't watched soccer in my life. I think maybe one time I played FIFA, like 10 years ago. But there's a billboard that says, it's quoting him, that said, it took me 17 years to become an overnight success. So we see those that have mastered any practice, it's because they're heavily involved in it. They're heavily thinking, always thinking how to progress, how to do better, always looking at different techniques and ways to improve themselves, and they apply themselves to that practice as well. So another mundane example, but just to get the point across. Kobe Bryant, who was a famous NBA, was a basketball player. He was the best, you can say. And they used to call him the Black Mamba. He was apparently a very amazing basketball player. And I mean, it showed his stats throughout his career, what he built up. And so after he passed away, there was a little memorial that was done for him. And some of his fellow players were coming and they were remembering him for his work ethic and his ability on the basketball court. And so one player said, they were playing for Team USA, so this was like, big time now, big scale, Olympics scale. And one player said, I had decided the previous night, this is when they were all together training, he said, I had decided the previous night that the next day I was going to be the first one on the court, that I was going to get in practice before everyone else, because I wanted to be better than everyone else. So he said, I determined myself that I was going to wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning and go down and start my practice. So he said he woke up, and prelude to this, he said that this instance showed him how Kobe was, why he was the greatest player. And so he woke up at 6 o'clock, went down, was going to get ready to hit the court. And then he came in to the room and he saw that Kobe Bryant was already there, drenched in sweat, ice packs on his knees. And then he realized that he had gotten up already a couple hours before that and had put in a 2-hour practice before he even woke up. So this is, showing how that determination that it takes to become excellent in whichever practice that we're trying to execute. So we see this in Karna Muni, how before he even tried to undergo this production of children, for 10,000 years he sat down and meditated. So he knows he's going to engage in a very profound, very important service. So he was preparing himself. Buying a house, same thing. You should know. You should have prior knowledge. What should I look for? Look for termites. Should I look for the house? What was the previous owner? What are the zonings in this house? It's different things, different knowledge that has to be looked at before we even engage in the activity we're going to look at. So prior preparation prevents poor performance, and in spiritual life in particularly, we have what's called the sadhana, which means our practice. And this sadhana we do every day, And ultimately, we're preparing ourselves. The point is, we're preparing ourselves for the time of death. Actually, that's what's going on here when we're engaging in spiritual practice. We're preparing ourselves for the time of death because in the Bhagavad Gita it states that whatever our state of consciousness at that time when we're going to leave our body, it determines what our next destination will be. So Krishna mentions in various places in Bhagavad Gita, like chapter 9, verse 34. Verse 34. He's just going to put up the verse here. Yeah, maybe you can let Prabhu Vishnu do it. It'll probably be a little easier. So anyway, this verse says, Manmana bhavama bhakto bhajaji manamaskuru mamaivaishyasi yuktaivam atmanama parayanaha. So here Krishna is giving, he's giving the cheat code on how we can go back to him. He says, engage your mind always in thinking of me. Become my devotee. Offer obeisances to me and worship me. Being completely absorbed in me, surely you will come to me. So I use that word cheat code. So I don't know if any of you ever played any video games. Never, huh? You never, right? So there's I used to play a lot of video games, and there's this game called Grand Theft Auto. And in this game, like you can do different cheat codes that you can just manifest a car out of nowhere just by pressing the buttons in the right order. So like that. So here Krishna has given us the cheat code, how we can come back to him. Because when we examine ourselves in this world, by nature or naturally, we want to be eternal. We don't want to die. No one wants to die. We want to know things. Everyone wants to be in knowledge. And everyone also wants to be feeling unending happiness, bliss. So this is actually the nature of the soul. The soul by nature is Satchit Ananda, eternal, full of knowledge, and full of bliss. So then what we have to understand is just what is the soul's natural position? Is it this material world where things are temporary, full of ignorance, and at every moment I'm being made unhappy? So is this the world where I belong in, or do I belong somewhere else? So naturally, any you can say intelligent human being will question, okay, do I belong here, or is there another place? And naturally we see that questioning awakens within one once becomes a little introspective of what's going on around in this world. And then we may start feeling like, I feel like I don't even belong here. And yes, when this thought comes, that is a very good thought. Because then once that thought comes, one should start to inquire, okay, where am I supposed to be? What is the ultimate goal of life? So in the Bhāgavatam, which is the book we're reading from today, in the first canto, it describes what is the goal of life. And this is in the first canto, chapter 2, verse number 6. It says, Savai pumsa paro dharmo yatho bhakti adhoksaje ahaitukir pratiyata yayatma suprasidati. And if we look here, it says that a little bit, yeah, so the supreme occupation or dharma. So dharma is a very interesting word, because dharma means also the inherent nature of something. So, like for example, what is the dharma of salt? If I was to ask you, what is the nature of salt? It's salty. So salt's dharma is salty, and it gives flavor to food. Sugar. It's sweet, yes. And we all like sweets. Who likes sweets? Yes, okay, good. So we'll make sure they get some nice sweets today. So yes, sugar is sweet. Jayananda Prabhu likes sweet. He put up 2 hands back there. So sweet. So this is the dharma of sugar that is sweet. So the dharma of the soul, you can say, what is the dharma of the soul? So inside this body you have a soul, right? Everyone can agree. Are we this body? Is this body me, or is it just something I'm in? See, so the body is composed of different elements: earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, false ego. So this is like ingredients that compose this vehicle that we're in. Krishna describes the body as a vehicle in the Bhagavad Gita. So we're in this vehicle, and the vehicle has a purpose. Every machine has a purpose. Like we recently had to replace our washing machine. So the purpose of the washing machine is to wash clothes. Imagine you wanted to bake a cake, and you thought, let me go to my washing machine, and let me throw in there eggs, or we don't eat eggs, but oil, milk, flour, vanilla, and whatever, some blueberries. And I'm going to make a nice cake. So you put the cycle on, you put, okay, it says to bake for 1 hour, so let me put for 1 hour cycle. And you turn it on, and you come back an hour later, and you say, where's the cake? You were using the wrong machine. You were misusing that machine. The purpose of that machine is to wash clothes. It isn't to bake a cake. So similarly, the purpose of human life is given here. So everyone's a human here. I just have to make sure before I go on. Everyone a human? Yeah? Okay. He said, because when you verify identity, sometimes it says you have to click, I am not a robot. Okay. So everyone here, no robots. Okay. So human beings, the supreme occupation, dharma for all humanity, is that by which men and women can attain to loving devotional service to the transcendent Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted in order to completely satisfy the self. So this is a very important point, that the quality of that service, that has to be unmotivated and uninterrupted, meaning that we don't come to the temple, or one doesn't come to the temple and come before Krishna, come before God and say, dear God, please, I need to pass this exam. If you please just let me pass this exam, then I will love you for real. If you please just give me this BMW X5, the brand new one, 2024. That's the one I want. Or I want that, big mansion, 6 rooms with the jacuzzi in the big basement, entertainment, Bose surround system. That would be just what I want. No, this is not the way we approach God. We approach Him in a service attitude. How can I serve you? So this is the mentality. If we understand that God is the supreme and we are His servant, that means that a servant approaches, how can I serve you? And then the picture that comes to my mind is like a butler, like a proper English butler. Imagine the master is there. He's the owner of the house. And if the butler was to go up to the master, my dear master, do you have the Rolls Royce ready for me so I can drive off today? No, it works the other way around. The master comes to the butler and tells him, you should get the Rolls Royce ready for me today. So like that, we go up to God and we ask, how can I serve you? And so it may be confusing in the sense that I can't hear God speaking. So how can I know what He wants me to do? So then comes the point of studying the scriptures and also taking shelter of or taking direction from a guru, means a bona fide teacher of spiritual knowledge. And there's various ways that it's described in the Bhagavad Gita and the Bhāgavatam how we should approach these types of persons, you can say. There's a verse in the 4th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, verse number 34. It says, Tatvidi pradipatena pariprasnena sevaya upadhyati jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshinaha. So this verse says, just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized souls can impart knowledge unto you because they have seen the truth. So particularly in this temple and in this movement, we follow the overarching instructions of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who translated these books. And all of us sitting in this room, most of us sitting in this room, are disciples of Srila Prabhupada. So this is you can say it's what's known as the Parampara system and it's a spiritual lineage which is giving this spiritual knowledge. And by connecting with the parampara, by connecting with the spiritual system, then we can start to have understanding by how we can get out of this entanglement of this material world, and how we can start to understand what is my proper duty and what is my service, and how am I supposed to engage myself in this world in such a way that I'm pleasing the Lord and also helping humanity, you can say, because ultimately that's another function of the devotees, is that they want to make this world a better place, so and we can see the activities of ISKCON all over the world are they're engaged in various things, primarily in distributing the chanting and distributing this transcendental knowledge, also by distributing transcendental foodstuffs, prasadam, like we're going to have today after the class. We'll go down and we'll have prasadam, which is food that has been first offered to Krishna and then spiritualized. So it's said that spiritual life starts with the tongue. Atashi Krishna namani napravigrahayam indriyai seva mukhi jivado swayam eva spuratyata. I don't know if you'll find that verse, but it's in, yeah. But this verse says here, I can read you the translation. This is from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. It's 1-2-234. And it says here that because Krishna's form, qualities, pastimes, etc. are all on the absolute platform, material senses cannot therefore appreciate them. When a conditioned soul is awakened to Krishna consciousness and renders service by using his tongue to chant Hare Krishna, to chant the Lord's holy name, and taste the remnants of the Lord's food, the tongue is purified and one gradually comes to understand who Krishna really is. So this is amazing. This is amazing. Srila Prabhupada, who's our founder of this movement, was one time in India, and he was asked to attend this big gathering of saints, and there were various sadhus there, and they were all discussing on spiritual topics, and some of them were describing how to make spiritual advancement, and in a way that Prabhupada wasn't really so much agreeing with. And Prabhupada said, you see, they're sitting there and they're speaking all this big knowledge, but guess what? We'll make spiritual advancement just by eating our way back to God. So like this. So this is a very powerful, very potent method, is to take this spiritualized food. So we have this spiritualized food at our Sunday feast, and we have it every morning. We have it for lunch. We have a Govinda's restaurant that's available. It's open Monday through Friday, 12 to 3. This advertisement has not been paid for. And we also take every morning, we take prasadam. And yeah, so the devotees of Krishna, they try to absorb themselves in Krishna. In the Bhāgavatam, again, first canto, second chapter, verse number 14, it says, Tasma ekena manasa bhagavan satvatapatihi shrotavya kititavyashta dhyaya pujaschya nityada. And so this verse says here that this is what the devotees are doing constantly. So when you come in association with devotees of Krishna, you're going to think they're crazy people, because they're just going to be talking about Krishna, eating Krishna prasadam, singing about Krishna, and everything is Krishna. So therefore, with one pointed attention, one should constantly hear about, glorify, remember, and worship the personality of God, who is the protector of the devotees. So yeah, Krishna is the Supreme Father. So just by remembering him, Krishna is also our best friend. And this is described in the, again, Bhagavad Gita, chapter 5, verse number 29, where he gives us amazing, so if you walk out of here today and you don't remember anything I said, it'll be okay. But if you just remember this one point, where he says here, Bhaktaram yagya tapasam sarva loka maheshwaram suridham sarva bhutanam gyantam mam santiricchati. So he says here, a person in full consciousness of me, knowing me to be the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices, Bhoktaram Yagya Tapasam, the Supreme Lord of all the planets and demigods, Sarva Loka Maheshwaram. But this particular line, this is the best line of all. Suridham Sarva Bhutanam, that he is the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities. So Krishna is our best friend. Krishna is desiring the best for us at all times, all places. Even if we're just going crazy, we're bouncing off the wall, we're doing a bunch of things that are just like completely destructive to ourselves, he's always there and he's always ready to guide us, to take us back, to show us the way, you can say, so to speak. So like in the Bible, it mentions that if you knock on the door, I shall open. So the Lord is like that. Once you start to inquire about him, how can I get to you? How can I love you? He will show you, because he's reciprocal. He's there, you know. And in this world, it may seem like we look around, where is God? You know, it's like so many bad things happening, so many people doing bad things to me. My own body is giving me trouble. So many others are giving me trouble. But ultimately, one of the reasons for this is that he actually loves us so much that he wants us to realize that this is not the place we're supposed to be. Because he gives us this facility to try to carry out whatever ideas we have for what will make us happy. So it's kind of like a small kid, crying about, wanting to do something that the parents know it's not going to be good for them. Or like, for example, like a stove is on and there's a fire on the stove and the kid just wants to touch the fire. Daddy, I want to touch the fire. No, my son is going to burn you. No, I want to touch it. I really, really want to touch it. No, but it's not good for you. No, but I want to do it. Okay. So then he gets realization of that. So similarly, Krishna allows, okay, you want to do whatever you want to do, go ahead. I'm not going to force you. So like that, because love is not forced. He gives us a space. We want to try out whatever we want to try out, and then when we're ready to turn to him, he's also ready he's there. He's ready. He's like, okay, I'm your best friend. I'm ready to guide you. And I have my devotees. I have my temples. You can come. You can associate. And you can be with them. And slowly, we can reestablish this relationship that we've always had, but somehow you've forgotten about me after so many years. Now you're coming back. So Prabhupada gives the example that it's like a wealthy man's child that is living homeless in the street. That he's homeless, he's living homeless now, and he's living in such a bad condition, suffering so much. But actually, he just has to go back to his father, because his father's a multi-billionaire, completely wealthy. So Krishna is the owner. He's the source of everything spiritual and material. So just by taking shelter of the Supreme Father, he will take care of us, and as it mentions here, attains peace from the pangs of material miseries. So ultimately, once we surrender to Krishna, once we understand that Krishna is our friend and start to engage in this process of devotional service, it's described that these are the first two symptoms once we start to engage in the practice of devotional service, Klesh Agni and Shubhada. This is described in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which is one of the books that we study, Nectar of Devotion. Srila Prabhupada did a summary study. Klesh Agni means that removal of all things inauspicious. So right away, so many negative things in our life go away when we start to engage in Krishna service. And Shubhada means our life becomes auspicious. It becomes full with so much mercy, so many miracles, that it'll be unbelievable, actually. You'll be like, wow, Krishna. At every moment, you'll be like, Krishna is so amazing. God is so amazing. I can't believe for so many years I just forgot about him. For so many lifetimes. And you see, this is how the great devotees, they lament. For so long I didn't worship you, my Lord. For so long I've forgotten about you. But he's always ready, because he's our best friend, to help us out back on the path. So that is my class for today. I didn't speak anything I had written on this paper, but I hope that all of you benefited from this talk. And now we can have reflections or questions or corrections by my mentors and teachers as well. He can verify that everything I spoke was in line with the scriptures. So if any of you have any questions, please don't be shy. You can ask, or reflections. Reflection is something you heard in the class that you'll take away with you. Kelsey.
Hare Krishna, thank you for the nice class. I was thinking one of the main topics of the class was you have to prepare. In order to achieve a good result for something, you have to prepare. So I was thinking maybe from two different perspectives. One perspective is someone who is not practicing spiritual life or devotional service. Is it necessary for him to prepare before that, or just jumps immediately with the head down? How do we do that? And then also for those who are already in the process, what they can take from this? What means for them to prepare? How you're going to see this in the life of already practicing devotee?
Okay. So the first part of your question, if I understood correctly, how, for those who are not in the practice right now, how do we prepare to get into it? So Srila Prabhupada gave very, very practical advice. He said, you don't have to change anything in your life right now. You just add Krishna. That's it. You just add Krishna to your life. So he said, he told specifically his followers, when they first started coming. He started the movement here in New York City on the Lower East Side. And he said, so many of his followers came, they had so many talents. They were, some teachers, musicians, businessmen. They were so capable, so many abilities they had. And he said, it's like having so many zeros, right? What is the value of 6 zeros? 0. 5 zeros? What is the value of 5 zeros? 0. What is the value of 4 zeros? 0. So he said all these talents are like zeros. He said, but then if you add the 1 of Krishna in front of it, then it actually becomes very valuable. So the 6 zeros turn to 1 million, 5 zeros turn to 10,000, that 4 zeros turn to 1,000. So it becomes very valuable. So like that, we can add Krishna to our life. And then slowly, there's more, as we start to progress, there's more rules to follow and maybe methods to do it this way, do it that way. But that comes with time. And the beginning is just add Krishna. So how do we add Krishna practically? Chant. We can do this mantra meditation that we do. You all know the mantra? Yeah. So it was Hare Krishna. It's actually written there. You can all see that? Okay, we'll do 2 words at a time. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna. Hare Hare. Hare Rama. Hare Rama. Rama Rama. Hare Hare. And this is the Maha Mantra. Maha means great, Man means mind, and Trayate means to deliver. So this mantra delivers us from stress, from anxiety, and ultimately delivers us from this material world. Brings us back to the spiritual world. Hare it means the energy of Krishna, supreme energy of Krishna. Krishna is Krishna himself, and Rama is also another name of Krishna, which means the reservoir of pleasure. So Hare Krishna. And Prabhupada, my guru, I heard him saying one thing in one class, which I think is really nice. He was mentioning how they were out and they were connecting with the public, and then one man came up and asked, "What does this mantra mean?" And one devotee said, "It means I need help." So like that, we can chant and we can be thinking, Krishna, God, please help me. I need help. Guide me, direct me. And then the second part of your question, you asked, if I understood correctly, Prabhu, what does it mean for practice and preparing for those who are already in the practice? So we can win with the basics, meaning every day, what are the basic sadhana we have, chanting our rounds, waking up early, making sure we take only Krishna prasadam. So ultimately, we just stay in Krishna consciousness and always absorbing ourselves in Krishna consciousness, and then ultimately at the end we go back to Krishna. And this is what's alluded to by Sridhar Swami in his commentary to 10.14.8 in the Bhāgavatam. Tate nukampam susamikṣamano bhujana evapmakritam vipakam revapvapubhye vididhan namaste jiveta yo mukti sadaya sadaya mukti padaya sadaya bhak. And he says in this, so this verse is a very nice verse in the Bhāgavatam, is Lord Brahma's prayers. So this is Brahma praying when he just did some, he tried to play some tricks on Krishna. He tried to show Krishna that he was very powerful, but Krishna showed him, made him feel like a pipsqueak, like very small. And here, Lord Brahma prays. He says, "My Lord, I'll see that." Okay, here we go. We'll just read it word for word. "My dear Lord, one who has earnestly waits for you to bestow your causeless mercy upon him, all the while patiently suffering the reactions of his past misdeeds and offering you respectful obeisances with his heart, words, and body, is surely eligible for liberation, for it has become his rightful claim." And then we can read the Sridhar Swami's purport. So see here, Sridhar Swami explains in his commentary that just as a legitimate son has to simply remain alive to gain an inheritance from his father, one who simply remains alive in Krishna consciousness, following the regular principles of Bhakti Yoga, automatically becomes eligible to receive the mercy of the personality of Godhead. In other words, he will be promoted to the kingdom of God. So this is what we want. We want to get promoted. So getting promoted means we need to prepare. It means we need to practice. Because otherwise, no promotion. It's like a bonus at work. You only get the bonus if you do the work, if you get the ratings. So similarly, for the practicing sadhaka, every day preparing, practicing, and in the process, at the end of our life, we can have this expectation as well. Krishna, you promised you're going to take me back. Here I am. I'm leaving my body. Boom, and he'll be there for sure. Because it says that to Arjuna, that I guarantee this to you because you are my very dear friend. In Bhagavad Gita 1865. It says same as 934. In this particular verse, he says, I promise you this because you are my very dear friend. He says that to Arjuna, yeah. I promise you this because you are my very dear friend. Something like that. I hope that was okay. Okay. And now if anybody has any further questions and discussions, we will do it, take it downstairs. Okay? Actually, we'll do one more, final one. It'll be the last one. And then we'll go downstairs. Yes, Boom.
Thank you for a really relatable class. So I had a question. So you talked a lot about like how to go back to Godhead and prepare ourselves to go back. Could you also maybe elaborate on how to like not have the conception of like when we leave this body, I'll be happy, I'll go back to Godhead, but already like while we are here, being in that state, because that's also a bit of a misconception in general about religion, that we should prepare now, we should like be austere, we should like, it's very hard now, but then when we leave, then we'll be happy, right? That's kind of a misconception. Can maybe talk a bit more about that? Yeah.
So, like Krishna mentions in this verse, the Bhagavad Gita verse that we looked at, sorry, he mentions agyantamam santirachati, which means that actually we can be free of miseries now. And like I mentioned, Nectar of Devotion mentions klesha agni, which means that miseries go away now. So this is something that will be very practical and perceivable once we're engaged in a process that we're connecting with God and we're endeavoring to serve Him. A natural byproduct will be happiness. It's not that we're striving for happiness, but it will just come of its own accord. It's not like we're looking for it. It will just come because ultimately we're connecting with the supreme source of happiness. So and it'll come now. It'll come immediately. So this is like you mentioned rightfully, that point that not that we should just think, oh, I'm going to practice and my whole life be completely miserable, then just expect that at the end of my life. But the verse we just read mentions also that if miseries do come, that I'll continue to happily serve you, my Lord. Because ultimately we understand that this is just, if we look at it from the scope of eternality, so we just zoom out a little bit, because sometimes when we're right in the moment, we're right, this situation just happened to me. My life it's ruined, it's terrible, I hate it. But if we just zoom out just a little bit, we'll see. It's like we won't be able to see that little problem. Not that, yeah, it gives us the strength to bear it. So it's not that, and also I don't want to minimize if someone is going through some difficulty, that it's not important. But the thing is to have a perspective on it, and then always be asking, what lesson am I meant to learn now? Like what am I supposed to learn in this situation? What are you trying to show me, Krishna? Kind of we keep this in mind, and with our mentors and guides, we can overcome any difficulty. Because actually, he says it's mentioned. I don't have the exact reference. Maybe Tulsi Prabhu can back me up. But any difficulty that comes, the Lord also gives the strength to overcome it within that difficulty. So it's kind of just like a test. It's like a test. You've been studying for a certain amount of time, then a test will come. And we may not pass the test at that particular moment, but we have the tools to pass the test. So then we have to then introspect, see what I did wrong, where I can maybe put a little more emphasis, and then pass the test the next time. So yeah, it's not that we're meant to be practicing spiritual life and be miserable. No, Prabhupada said chant and be happy. So this is important to do. Chant and be happy. Or chant and be miserable also, but just one thing is chant. Chant. Still chant, and you'll see you'll ultimately be happy. Okay. Thank you all so much for your kind attention. Srila Prabhupada ki, Śrimad Bhāgavatam ki, Gaura Premanandi.